Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and join a Victorian corset top. So I made this Victorian corset top for a wedding and I was able to record every bit of the process, and I'll be sharing with you step by step on how to cut this top. So this is a 12-part Victorian corset top and it is so easy to cut, guys. So you don't need to be scared that it is difficult or it is this and it is that. So just make sure you keep on watching to understand. And if you have yet to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe. It is absolutely free to subscribe, and turn on your bell notification so that you get notified anytime I upload a new video. Thank you so much. And on my table right now, I have my basic bodice pattern. So it is assumed that before you want to draft a Victorian corset top, you should know how to draft your basic bodice pattern. But if you do not know how to do that, no worries. I would be linking a video in the description box so that you get to watch that video and you know how to draft a basic bodice pattern. So I have my chest line, I have my bust, I have my upper bust, I have my waist and my hip. So right now I'll be taking my bust pan measurement, which is 4 inches, and from the center of this paper I'll mark 4 inches from the bust line to the under bust to the waist and to the hip, and I'm going to connect this line together. So after doing that, this is what I have, and I just extended the chest line. So the next thing I need to do is to mark my neckline. So this neckline is just depends on how much you want to expose your body. So from the shoulder line, I'm going to mark 7 inches, and this is how exposed my top is going to be. So after sewing, I'll be having about 7.5 inches. So I'll just connect that line and I would label that my neckline. So once that is done, I'm going to mark 5 inches from the center of this paper to get my yoke. So at 5 inches point, I'm going to mark it and I'll connect it to the top part of my shoulder. So this is going to serve as my yoke. I think this is also called a Princess Anne neckline. So I will just label that yoke. This is going to be cut out later and joined back to the dress, to the top. So after achieving that, I would now go ahead to take my darts for my Victorian corset. A Victorian corset is basically a senior kind of bustier which has a lot of darts, and in this case we are working with 12 darts. So the first one I'm going to be taking is the regular one. If you've watched my previous videos on bustiers, you would understand how to get this measurement. So all you need to do is to subtract your under bust from your bust measurement, and in my case I have 32 inches as the under bust, and I'll subtract it from 36, which is my round bust, and I'll divide that what I get by 2, which is 4 divided by 2, and I'll mark 2 on the part going towards the shoulder, the armhole. Then that 2 inches, I'll divide it by 2 again, and I'm gonna get 1. That 1 I have, I'll mark it towards the center part. So this is the first that I am creating on this top to get my perfect cup size. And now, just as I would do in a regular bustier top, I would mark whatever I have on the waist part as well. And in a corset top like this, the snatching is carried out on the under bust and the waist part. So after doing that, I'm going to come to the neckline and I will mark 1.5 inches on the right hand side. That is the part towards the armhole. I'll mark 1.5 inches, and on the part towards the center, I would mark 1 inch. So this also depends on your cup size or your bust size. So if it's a smaller cup, a smaller round bust of about 34 or less, you can mark 1 inch on the other side going towards the armhole and ½ inch on the other side. Now at the hip point, I marked ½ inch on both sides because I do not have a lot to do at the hip point, and I'm going to connect all these marks together. I'll go up by 1 inch at the bust, and then I'll connect all of this together. So before I go ahead with that, I'm just going to highlight some of the lines I have made already. So I'll be highlighting the neckline, then I'll also highlight the bust band line as well as the yoke. So once that is done, I'll go ahead now and connect all my lines together. I'll start from the upper ball, under bust and the waist. Then I'll connect all of them like that. And you see that hip, I'll connect it like that. I'll just follow what I have and create the darts like this. So I went down by half of an inch, or you can make it 1 inch at the bust line. So that's the connection I'm doing there. Then from that point, I'll connect also to the half of an inch above. I made a mistake there, so I'll be cleaning that and I'll connect it to the half of an inch above the bust line. So I'm going to clean that off and I will connect it to that point there. So once that is completed, you can already have a glimpse of what my cup is looking like. So I'm going to smoothen that part so that it looks better, because we do not need any sharp edges. If you forget to smoothen out your cup, your after sewing, your cup will look funny and pointy, so we don't need that. And with that, we have been able to create one of the darts for this top. It's so easy. Provided you continue watching this video, you understand every bit of this. So by the time I'm cutting out, I'm just going to shade the parts that will be cut out so that you can easily follow up with what I am doing on this paper. So I'm going to shade this in a way that signifies that this part will be cut off. So once I'm done with that, the next thing I need to do is to take my round measurements divided by 4. So I'll mark my round bust measurement divided by 4, which gives me 9 inches. Then after that, I'll mark my round under bust divided by 4, and I'll also mark that at that point. Moving on, at the waist point, I will be snatching a bit, and my normal round waist measurement is 30, but for this top I'm making use of 28 inches. So divided by 4 it gives me 7 inches. And at the hip line as well, I would also mark my hip measurement divided by 4. So now remember we took in that and we'll be replacing the darts. So whatever I have on the neckline, I'll be replacing that on the chest line there where I'll be cutting out. And guys, I forgot to tell you that you should cut out your paper to be really wide. So, maybe your round bust measurement divided by 4 plus about 7 to 8 inches. So as you can see, my paper is really wide, and that's why it can accommodate all these dart replacements. So on the bust line, there's no darts taken, and I'll move to the under bust. At the under bust, I have 3 inches dart intake, and I'll replace it on that line. Moving forward, I'll go to the waistline as well, and I'll try to measure out what I have on that point, and I'll be replacing the darts. On that place, I have 3 inches as well, so I'll add that 3 inches to my measurement. So I'll go down as well to my hip line, and whatever I have as the dart intake, I would be replacing it. So my hip measurement plus divided by 4, and I'll add what I have at the dart intake as the dart intake. So now I'll be marking this line here with a green marker because it's going to be a temporary line. I will not be cutting out at this point. I just need to draft out this pattern so that I can move forward with my measurements. So I'll be using a different color of marker so that you understand that this part of this top is not going to be cut out. So you just need to keep on watching so that you get to understand what I'll be doing with this line later on. So the next thing I need to do right now is to divide on my under bust what I have at that point. Don't forget, I mentioned that the starching takes place at the under bust and the waist part of a corset top. So I'll be dividing what I have there by 2, and I'll mark whatever I have there. So I had 5 inches, and I'm dividing 5 inches by 2, which gives me 2.5. And I'll also go down and mark 2.5 inches from the waistline. So I'll mark 2.5 inches there, and I'll connect the line from the chest area down to the hip line. So that's those two marks I made will be my guide to make sure that I rule out a straight line. So it does not matter what shape it gives you. Just make sure you are working with the division of the distance between your darts to that temporary line at the underbust. So after doing that, I'm going to be snatching again to create my second dart. So at the underbust, I'll go in by half of an inch. Before I do that, I'm just going to draw, I'm just going to highlight what I have already so that you can see that we are making progress. So I'll create a curve there because that is my cup, of course, and I'll create my lines like this. So I'm just going to connect all the lines, and this is what I have. So moving on, I'm going to create the next dart. I told you that a Victorian corset is just a bustier with many darts. So on the under bust, I'll be going in by half of an inch on both sides of that line I drew out. So half of an inch, and I'll connect it to the top part like this. So please just look at what I'm doing and you're going to understand. So I'll connect those lines to the hip part. Take note, I'm not taking any dart on the hip line and on the chest line. I'm only taking this dart on the under bust and the waist part. So with this, I have created yet a second dart. And now the last dart I'll be taking out will be on the center part. So on the center part, I'll take on the waistline 0.75 inches. And I'll connect it to the chest area. So I'll just rule out a line and connect this to the chest area. So please pardon me. I think this is the longest video. This is the longest voiceover I've ever had to make. So this video is going to be quite long. Just make sure you keep on watching so that you get all the details. And I'm going to create those lines again to show you that that place will be cut out. So just like I did for the other darts, I'll be replacing all my darts again. And I'll mark what I have on these darts and replace it. So don't forget, we have created 2 new darts after our bust cup dart. So it's important that we replace it. You know, one of the major secrets to making a perfect outfit is just taking note of where you have taken out measurements so that you can replace it. Because once you fail to replace all these measurements, your dress will not come out perfectly because you would have already taken away some inches from your original body measurements. So I'm measuring everything I have taken out and I'm replacing. So even on the center part, I'll measure what I have on the dart, measure on that line and replace it. So once you are done doing that, you are good to go. And now I would be checking on the hip line as well. On the hip line, I did not take any darts, so I do not need to replace anything on that part. So I'm going to connect now. Another thing with drafting patterns is that just ignore the irregular shape you have. By the time you are done sewing, everything is going to fall into place and you would see that your dress would now look perfect with the perfect shape you expect. Okay, so I would be using my red marker now because this part is going to be cut out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to decide how many inches I want for my sewing allowance, and I would add that to this pattern. So I'm going to use 1 inch. 1 inch is okay. If you're sewing for someone else, I think I put 1 inch because it's my top and I already know, I'm familiar with my measurements. If you're sewing for someone else, you can make it 1.5 inches or even 2 inches. But for me, 1 inch is just fine. So I will connect all those lines and we are done with the drafting of the front part of this Victorian corset top. Is it difficult? Please, if you have watched this video to this point, don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to do so. This helps to encourage me to make new videos. And please, I noticed you guys do not comment on my videos. Why? Please drop a comment. Drop a comment. Just tell me. Just this lets me understand that people are watching my videos. Please, just watch, drop a comment, and like this video. Thank you so much. So now next thing I need to do is to decide on my neckline. So from that point, I'm going to create a sweetheart neckline to get to my chest line. So this depends on you, but for this kind of neckline I'm creating at the top with this yoke, a sweetheart neckline is perfect for it. So I will just create a curve at that point. Also, there's something you're supposed to do that I forgot to do. You should make sure you try to close up your darts and smoothen the neckline, because by the time you're done sewing, you would have to adjust it, and by so doing, you'll be cutting off some inches. So now I'm going to label this one. The second one is going to be labeled 2. And of course, the last one is going to be labeled 3. So you can see why I used a green marker at first so that you don't get confused. And I can also label the center front, the middle M, and the side S. And guys, we're going to be moving to the back part of this top. So what I'm going to do now is to place my pattern paper and transfer all these lines. So please just take your time and transfer the lines accurately so that you do not have the front chest line higher than the back chest line or any other part of the pattern. So after doing this, I'm going to mark my neckline, which I used at the front. I'm using 7 inches. But if you want, you can actually make yours deeper. This depends on what you want. And I'll label that my neckline. Then don't forget to add your zip allowance if you're using a zip. As for this top, I made use of a zip. I'm also marking the Queen Anne neckline, which is the same as the front. I made use of 5 inches and I'm connecting it to the top part. I'll label that yoke. So I've highlighted my lines with my red marker, and now I'm going to continue with my pattern drafting. Now for the back of a Victorian corset top, this 12 part Victorian corset top, I'm going to mark what I have on my chest line. As you can see, just look closely. I have 9 inches on my chest line. What I'm going to do is to divide that by 3. Whatever I have by 3, well, just mark yours and divide what you have by 3. Whatever you have, just spread that across from the center of your paper. Please do not start from your zip allowance. Start from the main center of your top. So I'm going to mark 3 inches there. I'm going to mark another 3 inches like that to divide this top into 3. And with that being done, I'll also mark that on the bust part like this. I'll mark that and I'll draw the lines to the hip area. So just like the back of a regular bustier, we do not have busts at the back of our bodies. So we are not going to take any much darts at the back. I'm going to take only half of an inch at the waist and on the under bust of these 2 lines. So taking half of an inch, half of an inch. So this half of an inch is marked on the 2 lines that we created. Then I'm going to connect it straight to the neckline area, as you can see this. So this is to give a little snatching effect on the waist part, the back waist. And I'm also going to label this with my red marker to show you that this part is going to be cut out. And the back is really easy to draft. It is not difficult at all. So, and the last dart I'm going to create, just like the front, is on the zip area to avoid bulging, and of course to give it a dart at the center part. I'm also taking 0.5 inches on the zip area on the waist line, and I'll connect it to the chest area like this, guys. So can you see what I'm doing? And I'll connect what I have at that point to the hip. to the hip line. So this is just like the regular that you take to avoid zip bulge, like this. So I'm not using a lace for this top. Maybe next time when I make use of a lacing, I'm going to record the video and show you how to create your laced up corset. So I'm just marking my 1 inch and from this dart, and this is going to serve as my new zip allowance. Don't forget, as we did for the front bodies, we are going to replace all the darts we have taken. So if you fail to replace this dart, your dress is going to be tight, like you would have cut off from your body measurements. So I'm going to replace everything, and that's what I'm showing you. I replaced it and then I added 1 inch sewing allowance, guys, and that's all for the back pattern. So I turned the paper upside down, just the same way it's going to be joined, and I'm going to label. So before I do that, I'm going to, at the hip area, I'm going to go up with about 2.5 inches or 3. You can make yours 3, and I'm going to mark it and create a curve. So this depends on what you want. You can make yours a sharp pointy middle. You know how some corsets look where the center part is sharp. So you can decide that you want yours to be sharp from the waist, a basque effect or whatever. But for me, I just decided to curve this part of my top, and I'm going to add half of an inch allowance everywhere for the sewing of the bottom part. And this is what I have. So after doing that, I'm going to label these patterns just the same way they are going to be joined. Please make sure you try to do this, because these pieces look the same and they are going to confuse you so while you are joining. So I'm going to label A, B, B, C. I'm also going to label CD. This is just an order in which these patterns will be joined. And for the back, I'm turning it to the other side where I have my 1 inch allowance that will be joined with the other parts. I hope this makes sense to you. If you don't understand, you might need to rewind, you might watch the video again, and you understand why I had to turn this paper to the other side. So I'll continue my labeling from the other part where I have my marks, and I would continue labeling my pattern. I stopped at CD, so the next one is going to be DE. So before I do that, I'm just trying to put back so that I don't get confused. Back yoke. So there's nothing has changed about this pattern. The fact that I turn it upside down is just to keep the pattern in a way, in the order in which it's going to be joined. So this is number 4, this is number 5, and the last part is number 6. So at the bottom part, I'll continue with my labeling. This part is going to be joined with the other part. That's where we have our 1 inch. This 1 inch is going to be joined with this 1 inch on this side. So don't get confused. I stopped at CD. So I'm going to continue by the labeling the next one, DE. So I'm going to write DE at that point. So after that, the next one is going to be EF and the last one FG. So once you have labeled your pattern, you can go ahead and cut. So I'll start with the front pattern, and as you can see, I'll be cutting out the parts I have shaded. So just take your time and cut this carefully. Just watch what I'm doing and you're going to understand what to do. So this is the yoke area, and I'm going to cut that out. Cut it with the armhole, and I'll cut out the yoke. Moving on, I'm going to cut out our cup area as well as the remaining part of our armhole. So please just make sure you cut out, as you can see me doing. Every part of this pattern is very important. Make sure you cut it correctly. And now I'll cut out the side seam area like this. And for the back, I'm just cutting this out and cutting out the zip area like this. Cut out the yoke just like I did for the front part, and then I'm gonna cut out the darts, all the shaded parts basically. So please give this video a thumbs up. This video, this is the longest video I've ever had to do a voiceover for. Please encourage me, it means a lot to me. Oh please, I really need this. Like, just support me by liking this video, please, it means a lot. Thank you. And subscribe if you're yet to do that. So this means a lot. In fact, at the end of doing this voiceover, I'm practically dehydrated. So this is a whole lot of work, making a voiceover for a 30 minutes video. So guys, these are my patterns, and it's easy to scatter these patterns like this because I've already labeled them, so it's not possible that I get confused. So please make sure you label your patterns, and to be very easy for you to work with. Okay, and don't forget, when you're placing these on your fabric, you are going to be placing it on a fold, because you're going to get the left and the right sides of these patterns, and that's how we get our 12 pieces of fabric that sums up to give us a Victorian corset, a 12-part Victorian corset. Out my lining piece to be exactly like the fabric, and this is what I have, guys. So I'm so sorry, I was rushing to make this top for my wedding, and I could not record the sewing part. So hopefully I'm going to do that and upload it for you, my subscribers. Please don't forget to drop a comment. Also, make sure you mark the wrong side of this fabrics. It will also help you when you are sewing. As you can see, I marked the wrong part, and it made everything easy for me, easy peasy. So thank you, guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and you turn on post notification bell. The notification bell is just at below, it's just below the title of this video. Like, just look below, you're going to see on the right hand side a little bell. Just tap on all so that you get notified of all my videos when I upload. Okay guys, this video has taken all my energy, so make sure you like, comment please. I don't get comments, and I'm not happy about that. So it doesn't encourage me, it doesn't make me encouraged to make new videos. It's like nobody's watching my video or enjoying them. So if you enjoy my videos, let me know. If you don't enjoy them too, let me know so that I will know and I can improve on whatever I'm doing wrong. Okay, thank you, and see you in my next video. Bye.